Am I the asshole for ruining a pregnancy announcement by telling the woman she may have taken the wrong test? My husband and I recently invited 8 friends for lunch, and we were asked if we could also include a new couple, Doug and Sasha. We have never met them before, but everyone who was invited had, so we said sure. At one point during dinner, Sasha needed to use the restroom, and I told her to use the master suite since the other bathroom was occupied. I was helping my husband in the kitchen when Sasha came out of the room bawling and holding something in her hand. At first, I thought she hurt herself, but she said something to Doug that caused him to drop to his knees, cry, and begin kissing her stomach. All of our friends began screaming, jumping, and crying. It was insane. Finally, Sasha tells my husband and I that she is pregnant. Of course, we congratulate both of them, and then I give them a bag to put the pregnancy test in. I will admit, I did find it odd that she brought a pregnancy test and took it at a complete stranger's house, but I didn't say that out loud. Once everyone sat down to eat, Sasha looked over to me and said, "I hope you don't mind that I used one of your pregnancy tests. I just saw them and I had to." Looking at her confused, I responded, "I don't have any pregnancy tests." Sasha says, "Yes, in your drawer." I responded, "I don't have any pregnancy tests." Sasha says, "Yes, in your drawer." I asked Sasha if she meant the blue box in the back of my lower left drawer that was closed. She seemed to realize I was pointing out that she basically snooped around, and she sheepishly said the box said pregnancy for pregnancy tests. I said, "Sasha, the brand is Pregmate, and those are ovulation tests. I do not own pregnancy tests. Did you take an ovulation test?" Her husband freaked the absolute F out at me and said his wife was not an idiot and can read a box. He insisted Sasha get the test out now and show me that I'm wrong. Sasha refused, saying she didn't need to prove anything to a complete stranger and insisted they leave immediately. One of the couples thought that Doug and Sasha acted completely ridiculous, while the other 3 couples thought I should have pulled Sasha aside to discuss my concerns and said I was the asshole for saying something in front of everyone. Honestly, the whole situation caught me off guard and everything happened so quickly. The whole thing was bizarre and confusing. I just didn't have the time to put the pieces together mentally before asking about the ovulation tests. Also, I found out later through one of my friends that Sasha did take the ovulation test and she is not pregnant. Would I be the asshole if I got my younger sister's college scholarship revoked? I am 21 and have been an avid writer my entire life. I have written 3 full-length novels that I'm almost perpetually reworking and a book of short stories all set within the same universe. I've been working on this universe and the characters within it since I was 13 and it is all very personal to me. This week, I found out that my younger sister, who is 17, won a massive scholarship by submitting one of my short stories. I would have been upset regardless of which story she'd taken, but she happened to pick one based around my experience feeling othered because of my autism. My sister is not autistic and has actually bullied me in the past for my autistic traits, and so the fact that this was the story she picked to steal from me almost feels like an attack. In addition to submitting the story, she also had to write about what inspired her to write the piece, and even thinking about what she must have made up makes my blood boil. My parents are currently struggling for money, and this scholarship would pay for almost her entire first year. Both my parents know what my little sister did, and they have both asked me to just let it slide because my sister having the scholarship is helping out our family.
So I used to know this girl who would constantly say things like, "Guys, sorry, I'm so ugly. I just ruined the whole group photo, I'm sorry." And then everyone would automatically comfort her and be like, "No, you're beautiful. You shine." And then she would be like, "No, but thank you." And she would do the same thing over and over again, trying to get everyone's attention. So eventually, I got tired. So the next time she came to me saying, "I'm so ugly," I was like, "You know what? You are." She was like, "What'd you say?" I was like, "Bitch, if you think you're ugly, I can crop you out of the photo. The fuck do you want me to tell you? I'm not the one who made you look like a woolly mammoth."
Story time of how I found out that I was pregnant with my stepbrother's baby. So basically I was 16 at the time and my mom didn't let me date. So I had to keep dating this guy a secret from my mom. And every weekend this guy would come over and she was dating him, but she didn't think that we were ready to meet his kids yet. Okay, so to be able to hang out with my boyfriend, me and him both told our parents that we were going to a friend's house. And my best friend's mom does not care what she does, so me and him would both always go there. So about a year into dating this kid, me and him were both tired of keeping it a secret from our parents. And legit, coincidentally, the same exact night that I was going to tell my mom about my boyfriend is the same exact night her boyfriend was going to bring his kids over so we could meet them. So I was going to wait till after we met them so she was in a better mood. And when my mom's boyfriend got there, so did my boyfriend. Me and him literally don't know how we didn't catch on. So we both decided not to tell our parents yet. And then me and my boyfriend decided that we were just going to take advantage of it because my mom's boyfriend was going to be moving in, so that means I can live with my boyfriend. I'm running out of time, like for part 2. Part 2, if I found out that I was pregnant with my stepbrother's baby. Continuing on with the story, my mom's boyfriend moved in, and because my boyfriend was my mom's boyfriend's son, he also moved in. So every time my mom and her boyfriend, aka my boyfriend's dad, would go to sleep, me and my boyfriend would always end up in the same bed. I don't know how we hid this for such a long time, but they ended up telling us that they were getting married, so me and my boyfriend decided that we were going to tell them that we had been dating for, I think it was 2 years at the time. My mom and his dad were absolutely okay with it, and at that, they made us share a room in our new house. And an exact week after they got married, I ended up taking a pregnancy test just for fun, and it came out positive. I was literally so scared, and 2 days later, my mom told me that she was pregnant. So as we speak now, I have a 2-year-old brother by my boyfriend's dad, and I have a 2-year-old baby by my stepbrother. Oh, also for another story time, I caught my stepbrother, aka my boyfriend, sleeping with my mom. Yeah.
You went to a public high school? Who was the kid who faked cancer?
It was my best friend, freshman year of high school. She pulled me aside at 7 in the morning, and she's like, I have something to tell you. And I'm like, what's up? And she's like, so I went to doctors, and they told me that I have cancer, and I'm going to surgery in 2 weeks. I told her, I was like, what type of cancer? She's like, blood cancer. I just have to get my blood drained. Excuse me? I was 14, okay? I should have fucking known better. But she was like, yeah, I may die. Pretty much she told me that like something may happen. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm getting myself prepared to lose my best friend, pretty much. And so the day after surgery comes, and I call her during my lunch, and I'm like, hey, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm going in right now. I'll make sure someone texts you when I get out. So I'm waiting the entire day. And then at 8 p.m., I get this text from this boy named Sam that I had never heard of, telling me that she's in a coma and on life support because the surgery didn't go well. Okay, I'm gonna try to fit it all in here. So the next day she wakes up from this coma that she's not supposed to be waking up from. It's a miracle. This boy named Sam never existed. It was her all along. By the way, everyone cried. 2 days later, I get this text from her saying, hey, I still have to go to school because my parents are making me go. And I was like, why? And she was like, don't worry, I'm gonna be at the nurse's office the entire day. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll go visit you during my lunch. And she was like, no, you cannot go visit me. And I was like, no, I want to. And she's like, no, you cannot. And I was like, okay, fine. I still went because she was my best friend. I went with one of my friends. We went in there. She's not in there. I asked the nurse, hey, my friend's supposed to be here. She had surgery 2 days ago. She has cancer. Where is she? They were like, I have no idea who you're talking about. Let me look her up. They looked her up and they're like, yeah, she's supposed to be in class right now. I'm like, no, she has the same lunch as me. She's not supposed to be in class. And they were like, no, she has class right now. And so me and my friend went throughout the entire school looking for her. We stumbled across one of my friends and she was like, I just saw her walking down the stairs perfectly fine. I went into one of the stairwell and she was walking down the stairs perfectly fine. And she looked at me. We locked eyes and that's when she fucking knew that she fucked up. I confronted her and I was like, what's up? And she was like, I don't know what people told you, but you have to believe me. I do have cancer. They're all lying to you. I have a scar going down my chest right now. And I was like, show me the scar. And she was like, I'm not going to show you the scar. We're at school right now. And I was like, I don't believe you. And then later on that day, she confessed that everything was fake. And I was like, why would you do that? And she was like, because you were not giving me attention anymore. You were getting so close to Sky, my best friend right now. And I thought that you didn't like me anymore, and I thought we were not going to be friends anymore. And I was like, well, I don't like you anymore, and we're not friends anymore. I blocked her. A few days later, she got a fake number, texted me through that fake number, pretending to be someone from my youth group, and told me, hey, how do you feel about blank? And I was like, I knew it was her texting me from that number, and I was like, why do you want to know? And she was like, because you should forgive her, you know? She was probably doing it for the best. And I told her, like, I know it's you. And she was like, you have to forgive me. You have to listen to me. Like, I did this because I care about our friendship. And I was like, you clearly do not care about anyone but yourself.
Am I the asshole for throwing wine on my mom at my brother's wedding? My mom and I have always had a ... difficult relationship. I'm her scapegoat and my brother is her golden child. He can really do no wrong in her eyes. I'm expected to do housework every time I visit, while my bro sits around doing nothing. So I don't visit much and I just avoid her. Despite all this, bro and I are still very close and I'm good friends with my sister-in-law. My mom has treated sister-in-law like shit ever since she started dating my brother 5 years ago. My bro and sister-in-law got married married in October. They seized the COVID opportunity to have something small, 20 guests total, and it was in their backyard. My mom showed up in a floor-length white dress. Sister-in-law looked like she was going to cry when she saw my mom. So, without thinking, I just grabbed a bottle of red wine.
No!
Uncorked it and dumped the whole thing down my mom's front. Mom flipped out, but couldn't scream at me because there were so many people around. So she just left with my dad and came back wearing a green dress.
Oh my God. Okay, so it worked.
Am I the asshole for taking away my daughter's car for lying to my fiance? I, 36-year-old male, have a 16-year-old daughter. I have full custody of her because her mom had a mental breakdown and has been in and out of rehab. This January, I started dating my girlfriend who is 21 years old. Then quarantine happened, and that time apart made me realize that I wanted to spend my life with her, so I proposed in May and she moved in, and our wedding is in October. Since then, my daughter has been a nightmare. She and my younger sister, who is 25, keep calling my fiance the kid. My fiance decides to invite my daughter out to go shopping. She kept trying to set a date, but my daughter kept saying she had an extracurricular activity she needed to tend to. So yesterday, when my daughter once again made up the excuse, I decided to follow her car. She ended up pulling to a diner, and I realized she was grabbing lunch with my younger sister. I was beyond furious. First at my sister for enabling toxic behavior, and second at my daughter for lying to her future stepmom. I ended up taking her car keys away from her. Her aunt then called and said I had no right to do so. I explained that she would not be getting the car back until she makes an attempt to bond with her stepmom. Am I the asshole for not condoning?
So as many of you know, I used to work at Starbucks. Now that I am no longer employed by the buck, I'm going to share all the things that I did that absolutely should have gotten me fired. So like 5 minutes from closing this one night, a 65-year-old man comes through our drive-thru and he orders his drink and he gets to the window and I'm like, I have made no money being here. I want a tip. So when I tell you, this is exactly how I gave him his coffee. Oh. Hi, here's your caramel macchiato, big boy. It'll be $5.50. A $20 tip for me? Yeah, I called the customer big boy and he gave me a $20 tip. Also, my favorite thing to do while I worked there was to talk to our regulars in a different accent every single day, but I would never address it. On Tuesday, I would talk to them in a British accent, and then when they came through the drive-thru on Wednesday and they're like, where'd your accent?
So when I was a sophomore in high school, I had this teacher who would only let the students in her class use the restroom one time per semester. Well, one day I raised my hand and I was like, excuse me, I don't remember her name, can I please use the restroom? And she was like, no you can't because you've already used the restroom in my class this semester. Well, excuse me, you can't dictate my bladder. So I'm all frustrated and I started secretly texting my mom because I wasn't allowed to use my phone in class. And I was like, Mom, I'm sitting in class right now, my teacher won't let me use the restroom. And she was like, I'll take care of it for you. And I was like, okay. So 5 minutes goes by and all of a sudden my teacher's phone starts ringing and she walks up to it and answers it and she's like, hello? Yeah. Okay, thank you. And then she walks up to me so angry and she slams the pass on my desk and she was like, since you have to go that bad. And I was like, yeah, I really do, thanks. And I got up and left. I didn't even have to go to the bathroom. It was just the principle of it. I just roamed the halls.
Am I the asshole for refusing to let my family meet my daughter after all of them dropped out of my wedding upon finding out my wife was pregnant? I come from a conservative Christian family. All my family members were/are involved in the church and have church-based jobs. When they met my wife, they loved her and embraced her as their own. We dated for 2 years and discovered she was pregnant after we got engaged. Invitations were already given at the time, and we decided to still have the wedding on the date when my wife was 5 months in. My family was furious when they found out my wife was pregnant. They asked if we were even still considering having a wedding. I said why not, but they were very upset, especially my mom and dad, who said that they've always been known for their decency and good Christian values, and they weren't willing to let this stain their reputation, as in my wife and I getting married while pregnant. They officially dropped out and refused to negotiate, saying it was done and I have only myself to blame for this outcome and should have moved the wedding to out of town. I was hurt and I tried to change their minds and checked with other members, but my brother said he had no intentions to look like a joke in front of his fellow church members and dropped out too. My aunt pretended to be sick and said she may not be able to make it. She's 100% and my uncle cussed me out, tore up the invitation, and kicked me out. I felt terrible with no family members of my own to support me and share my joy at my wedding. I even broke down crying after the ceremony. I haven't spoken to them for months and then got busy with my 4-week-old daughter. My cousin reached out to hand me gifts and well wishes for the birth of my daughter sent from my family. I returned everything. He sat with me on behalf of my family and said I shouldn't have returned the gifts and that they were from my family who want to see and hopefully be involved in my daughter's life. He said my mom's longing to meet her grandbaby and everyone else is wanting to visit soon to celebrate my daughter's life. I said, wasn't my daughter the reason why the entire lot of them abandoned my wedding? My daughter at some point will ask about the wedding and I have no intentions on lying to her. He just started stuttering as I went on about how they treated my daughter as someone to be ashamed of and hide. He replied saying he guaranteed I got it all wrong and no matter what goes down between us, I can never deny that my daughter is their granddaughter/niece, etc. and that they're family. He asked that I arrange for them to visit, but I refused. My wife says I should let them come, but I still refuse. So, am I the asshole? I, 35-year-old female, threw away old photos of my husband, 44 male, with his late wife years ago. He just found out and he hates me for it. I met my husband 4 years ago and it was love at first sight. He was a widow and he had a daughter who is now 17. It was tough to deal with, I won't lie, but I wanted to be with him so badly that it didn't matter. We got married 2 years ago and we've had our struggles, I won't deny, but overall it was a very happy, love-filled marriage. At the beginning of our relationship, I was really jealous of his late wife. He had pictures of her around his home. His family loved her and talked about her all the time. It was tough. I was constantly comparing myself to her. She was beautiful, intelligent, and successful. She was a great mother, friend, wife, whatever you can think of. I did speak to my then boyfriend about these feelings, and he even took down some of the pictures later on in our relationship. Still, his house never felt like my home, as it felt like it was still hers. When we got engaged, we decided we would buy our own home, and we moved in right before we got married. During the moving process, I found box after box of old photos and other materials. Photos of his ex, family photos, photos of them together, baby photos, everything. Some of these were even Polaroids. They were so old. They had been together for many, many years and had so much history together. I don't know why at that moment I snapped, but I did. I threw the ones with her in them away in the garbage. When we were putting photos up in the new house, I didn't put any of her except ones with my stepdaughter. There was a box of her things and I donated some of the items and threw the rest of them away. I even went onto the computer and deleted photos he had stored on there. At the time, I felt like I won maybe. I don't even know what I was thinking this would accomplish, but I did it. For the past 2 years, my husband hasn't noticed. My stepdaughter turns 18 soon. She's a very intelligent girl. She graduated early, goes to a top-tier school, and is very well adjusted for someone who lost her mother so young. Anyway, my husband's mom wanted photos of her as she was putting something together for her. He went to look for them, and as you can imagine, they weren't there. He asked me about them, and I admitted everything to him as I wasn't going to lie to him. He is very angry at me, and he can barely look at me. I've asked him to go to marriage counseling, but he refuses. I'm 13 weeks pregnant, and I'm trying to manage the stress. He's devastated, not just for his daughter, but for himself. I know he loved his late wife very much. Am I the asshole for trying to prove if someone's boobs are fake? One of my 30 female close friends, male 30, went on a date with this girl. The next day, we all went to the gym and he was raving about her body, especially her chest. I took one good look at her and proceeded to tell my friend that her boobs were most definitely fake. I could tell right away that they were a bit too perfect to be real. My friend then asked if it's because I've seen her naked before in the locker room. I actually haven't, but that doesn't matter. He begs me to find out if they're fake or not, but I refuse. The problem is, now that I put the thought into his head, he doesn't want to date her anymore. A few days later, I was in the sauna at the gym when my friend's date, Sidra, walks in. I overhear her telling her friend how she went on this amazing first date and he asked her out on a second date, but out of nowhere calls and cancels and says he doesn't want to see her again. I scoff loudly and apologize for eavesdropping on their conversation. She then starts removing her towel while introducing herself to me. I got up to shake her hand but lost my balance and fell right into her while my hands grabbed onto her chest to break my fall. And, well, they're most definitely real. I then tell my friend Jerry about what happened at the gym and he freaks
Am I the asshole for being mad at my husband for spending $2,000 to rent a yacht for his best friend's welcoming party, using money I saved for our home renovation? I, female 34, am a nurse. I've been married to my husband, Dale, for 2 years. We bought a small house that we got for a reasonable price. However, the house is in miserable shape, and we moved in 9 months ago. I've been putting money in our joint account to try to renovate the house room by room. I'm currently saving up for the bathroom renovation. It's an utter mess, and so far I was able to save up $2,500. His salary isn't much. He can't help with renovations, but still takes care of our daily expenses. Now, the issue. He asked about the bathroom renovation money and if he could use some of the money. We discussed it, and I told him that it's urgent to get the bathroom fixed, and he said he understood. Yesterday, I was checking the email and discovered that Dale has made a reservation and rented a yacht for 1 day. The cost was $2,000.
Leave him now.
My girlfriend, 25 female, repeatedly insists that I redo my proposal over and over. I'm running out of patience.
I'm with it.
I, 24 male, proposed to my girlfriend, 25 female, in late 2019 after 2 years together. Admittedly, now that I think back on it, it wasn't the most well thought out or planned proposal. It was mostly spontaneous and came as we were lying in bed together, so I didn't even have a ring at the time. My girlfriend said that she would love to marry me, but she had been looking forward to a more elaborate proposal. I assured her that I'd sort something out. A month later, after shopping for the perfect ring, I set up some candles when she was coming home one day. Think the Chandler-Monica proposal in Friends. Well, my girlfriend loved the ring, thankfully, and teared up with happiness. She said that she really appreciated my effort, but what she meant by elaborate was something original that she could tell our kids about one day. She mentioned the name of one of her friends.
Am I the asshole for not wanting to have kids? When I was 24, I had a baby with Liz. We trucked along for 5 years and then we got divorced. The kid, Jane, was very upset by the whole thing. I never really wanted kids and Jane was a mistake. I realized after we had her exactly how child-free I wanted to be. At first, we basically had 50-50 custody while we got it formally figured out. We just worked around our schedules, and while we both worked, she spent time with her grandparents. The problem arose when I realized I was dreading having her over. A lot of the time, we did 10 days each, and I had the time of my life on my 10 days off, and I hated having her with me. She was fine before, but now was showing some really shitty behavior to me specifically. Nothing major, but she was really well behaved before. The divorce was finally about to go through, and our legal obligations toward Jane's decided. I told my lawyer that I wanted no custody, full stop, but would pay full and maximum child support instead. My ex Liz and my parents were not happy about this, but I told them I was moving across the country to a city and this was the only way. It's now 10 years later and I'm exceptionally happy, and I'm now married again and my wife doesn't want kids either. Am I the asshole for catfishing my underage sister on Tinder and humiliating her in order to teach her a lesson? Last week I was using my younger sister's phone because mine was dead and I needed to call a friend. Dialing my friend's number, I saw a Tinder notification of some dude messaging her. Immediately I asked her why she's on Tinder. She's 17 and she grabbed her phone back and said none of your business. I decided as her big brother that I wanted to have a little fun with this. I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she's just swiping for fun. So I didn't want to go straight to ratting her out to our parents. To test if she was just using for fun, I decided I was going to make a Tinder profile of someone else and message her to see if she responds. I asked a good friend of mine from back in college, who happens to be a male model, if he'd mind if I used his pictures and explained the situation. He thought it would be hilarious and told me to go for it. I created the account, set my age to 22, set my swipe radius to a mile, and quickly found my sister's account. Her age was set to 19. Lie, she's still in high school. So I was definitely more suspicious of her now. I super liked, and less than an hour later she matched and messaged me. I decided to set up a date to a fancy restaurant downtown for Sunday afternoon. Am I the asshole for not having my stepdaughter in the family photo? I, 32 female, and my husband Jack, 36 male, have 3 kids together. Lydia, 5, Carol, 2, Solomon, 8. Jack has an Ephraim, 8 female from a different marriage. It's our last week of summer before the kids start school, so we decided to rent a lovely little beach cottage for the week. It's a common theme in my family to take Christmas card photos while on vacation, so naturally I wanted to take the photos while we were away. Here's a problem. Jack is white, but Ephraim's mom is black, and she turned out looking very much like her. I don't care what race she is, but my parents, however, are pretty racist. I have limited contact with them for several reasons, so they've never met Ephraim, but we're on Christmas card terms. I don't want to send them a card that Ephraim is on because they will make a fuss about the certain word with the hard R child. So my plan was to take pictures with just me, husband, and bio kids for my parents and a couple other relatives, and then have her be in the picture for Jack's family and our friends. But when I called picture time and told Ephraim she wasn't going to be in this picture but the next one, she started to look upset. I did let her take our pictures, which lifted her spirits, and we got some lovely pictures.
Am I the asshole for telling my pregnant sister to walk to McDonald's if she has cravings? You can't touch her food, but she can touch yours, even if it's in your room, and we're all expected to cater to her, even my half-sister who's 7 years old. She doesn't pick up after herself. She never puts her clothes in the laundry basket or takes her dirty dishes to the sink. We're expected to drive her everywhere she wants to go and pay for her baby stuff. I can't wait to move out because her attitude and pregnancy annoy the F out of me. At 2 a.m. she told me I need to get her a list of McDonald's food, which added up to €29.
I asked her to wait till tomorrow and she started yelling at me to get my lazy ass up. I said I wasn't the father, I don't owe her anything. My mother demanded I apologize and I told my stepsister to walk. Today I was told to leave until my attitude changed.